Good morning. This is Eng Suraj Singh. I was explaining to you about engineering-based development in serial number 1 and 2, now serial number 3. Engineering-based development appraisal to general public. Professional awareness, backbone of any nation, hidden works, sacrifices for development, small returns, buildings, by me, Professional Engineer Suraj Singh, New Delhi. The objective is the world of engineering sciences, their applications, impact on the economy, health, safety and environment, quality, society, all relevant and others. Buildings construction in Bharat, that is India, and advice to general public, civil engineering planning and designs in buildings. Engineering science applies to the whole world development. Engineering is the basis of any society. Without engineering, the human had to remain ancient. Civil engineering is the basis of all structures and infrastructures. Design and planning of buildings is a vast discipline. Engineering is an art-based science with widest network. In fact, engineering is a mind religion. It's like religion. It's a profession. Without engineering, Ramayana could not be completed. In Mahabharata, the building was set on fire. Ram Setu is also a marvel of ancient engineering, not learned from any university, but from Vishwakarma, the universal engineer. Maybe you accept or don't accept, but this is what is written in documents of Bharat. Without engineering, nothing is possible. Yet the professionals are most unbeneficial and society is unaware about their sacrifices. The public has to look into the pros and cons of the engineering and recognize the efforts contributed by various engineers and all engineers. No politics can sustain the national development without the role of engineering. Engineers can change the national power and status in the world. Engineers are to be credited with the due social regards. Engineers are not seen in public but must be recognized for the sake of better understanding and given the due status and regards which they deserve. They are too hard-working to be seen as such. All other professions shall be worthless without the contribution of engineering in the global scenario. Engineering travels its journey from a dream to a made-up project, to a created project, a dream coming true. Dream shall be coming true and dreams have been coming true. Buildings are a must for the operations of all professions, other professions. The public of this world, the public of the whole world living on the earth has been developing various nations as well as the globe. The contributions from all fields of human life are responsible to make it, but a considerable contribution comes from the field of engineering of all disciplines. Without the contribution of engineering, the life shall cease. The history is full of various legends of engineering all over the globe. Though there was no engineering education in those days, yet the minds were full of engineering knowledge, inculcated either by the God gifts or by the clan works inherited from ancestors. Engineering contributes from the manufacturing of a needle to the space, vessels and all other articles. All systems are running based on any branch of engineering. The engineering involves a part of art, applied mathematics, applied sciences and the health, safety and environment. With the assistance of all the codes and national and international laws and codes, engineering is a very complex term in this age, as contributions from various engineering disciplines are required to accomplish any small task or manufactured piece. Civil engineer contributes to the full execution of any project. The buildings are the creations of the architectural and the structural engineers, with credited supports of the subsidiary disciplinary engineers. Then the workers, specialists as well as common also. All respect from the society, as without their laborious contribution, the people cannot live in the beautiful houses or beautiful buildings. This is in continuation to the previous article. Now I am going to deliver about the engineer has to be allowed plenty of time to conceive, develop, economize and detail the design so that a good and durable structure is produced. It has been noticed that the architects often pressurize the engineers to do the designs using thumb rules, but that is not considered a good engineering practice. The owner has a right to avail good structural engineering services. The owner must allow the engineer with due time, allowance and compensate accordingly. Should the engineer be allowed for his dues, the engineer shall be responding to all aspects of the structural designs, duly incorporated onto the detailing so that a good work is produced. Good design is produced. Always, the engineer shall do hard work on the theory of the structures relevant to the proposed designs and analyze that thoroughly so that All the imposed stresses on the concrete and reinforcement materials are known. Based on this information, the engineer shall allow the thickness of various members, the size and spacing of reinforcement. The due allowance for the wind loads and the earthquake resistance shall be incorporated. The owner shall get automatically the results of what is being paid to the engineer. Adequate saving of various materials can be made based on the correct structural designs. It is always not acceptable to use unnecessary higher diameter reinforcing bars where the lesser diameter works safely. Also, the designer shall check all the probabilities of the dimensions of the members so that an optimum quantity of concrete is utilized, as oversize shall result in wastage of the material while the undersize is a risk to safety and long-term performance and shall endanger the durability of the structure. After having decided the dimensions of various included members or proposed members on the structural frames, the engineer shall look into the aspect of interdisciplinary coordination for the final tuning of the design so that all the required services would be able to be embedded or to smoothly run through the proposed structures. A coordination meeting with the architect as well as all other senior professionals of various disciplines involved, and if possible, the owner shall be convened as well. The final dimensions shall be agreed and then the steel detailing be carried out. These drawings shall further be converted to the site working drawings in the form of cutting and bending shapes of thousands of reinforcing parts to be used for the purpose to make ease for the works of the steel fixers and bar binders, so as to fabricate in place respectively. Once the designs are ready for being delivered to the site engineer, the remaining designs of the other disciplines shall be followed for final touch-up. Conventionally, the following operations are involved that I am going to speak from the conception to the final completion stage of any building that comes under the scope of any municipality or the local body anywhere in the world. Either the plot is available or the scheme is available. For smaller projects for the individual plotted houses or for mansions of group housings, the plots are allotted by the relevant statutory authorities under the state governments in general. For major schemes of the common public interest, the integrated housing schemes are submitted for the government approval. And after the approval is obtained, the state acquires the requisitioned lands from the various owners based on the notified market rates that the promoter has to pay on account of acquisition. Such projects of public interest are designed based on the integrated planning conventionally designated as self-contained complex, providing all essential and necessary amenities to the would-be owners or users of the apartments or flats. B. The party that takes the risk of investment on such schemes is called the promoter, though in Bharat, India, there is no statutory provision of such business yet. Virtually thousands of promoters have been working around our country, Bharat, in the name of real estate business. In general, these promoters float the companies and carry out their business by appointing the engineering and architectural staff on their own and make a lot of profits. The flats are designed high-rise and more than 100% profiteering is made from such projects. The consultant of any qualified competency caliber may also be appointed in the title of project managers either on the salary basis or on fee basis. In such cases, the cost of land from one owner should be based on the number of stories, but I have experienced in the current market that per square feet costs around 2,200 or more, or 2,500 rupees is being charged in NCR or Delhi or surroundings. That appears too high, but the public is running behind the flat booking and the common citizen is left behind. Yet the prices are skyrocketing. After the purchase, the owner has to do further work of furnishing and decorating the individual basis on individual basis. The scheme, to my understanding, is very expensive. C. The plots are issued by the development authorities either by various lottery draws, auctions, or by the transfer as first or second sales. Any original owner can transfer the plot to the plot to the other subject to the permission of the authority is given. Every plot is allotted for certain fixed years, and if not constructed during the specified period, an extension fee is to be deposited with the relevant authority. After paying the fee, a no-due certificate is obtained from the authority that being the regulatory requirement of the bylaws or laws. The plotted houses are constructed by the owner on self-risk. The owner appoints an architect or an engineer or a consulting company for the required services. The plot is taken possession of, and then the building plans are prepared to the owner's requirement in compliance with the area zoning. The architectural plans and details, structural plans and details with the services plans and details are worked upon as a package and a pile of documents such as topping application and with the affidavit, site plans, architectural and structural plans, services plans, proposed specifications, permit processing fees, rubbish fee, indemnity bonds, etc. are submitted. All the technical documents are submitted in four copies, one original plus three. Two are submitted during the mounted on cloth while the others without. In general, the blueprints are the requisite drawings, yet certain departments have started accepting the computer prints as well. As of this day, per square meter coverage area fee is ₹10 for the purpose of processing by the government. D. The relevant department works out the scrutiny of the documents in line with the provisions of the bylaws, ensuring that the National Building Code and the laws are complied with. Certification submitted by the structural engineer is scrutinized. Then any correction required is incorporated, and if so required, a redesign is submitted. Then the building permit is issued by the authority, validity of which is limited for 2 years duration. The owner is required to obtain the building completion or occupation certificate within this duration, or else the building permit stands invalidated. In case of expiration of the building permit, the application for the permit is reprocessed and new permit is obtained in line with the requirement of the regulations. There are various roles and the procedures involved during the erection of the buildings that shall be defined hereinafter in conjunction with the detailed activities information for the general considerations. During the processing of the application to obtain the building permit, the appointed engineer or architect is duty bound to follow the process on behalf of the owner, so that the scrutiny is smoothly moved out to the issue of building permit documents state. E. After the receipt of the building permit and the approved municipal drawings, copies are issued to the person responsible for preparing the tender documents to invite any experienced building construction contractor. That has to be decided whether the contract should be on material plus labor rate or only on labor rate criteria. It's better should the contract be entered on lump sum basis, but in some countries the price of material and labor fluctuates excessively. That makes no sense to enter into a lump sum contract. In general, very small buildings constructions, the contracts are decided exclusively on the labor rate element. The owner arranges for all the materials to be defined by schedule and makes payments to the contractor based on the quantity of work carried out. Whatever material is used on the permanent members should be approved by the supervising engineer or the supervising architect, as well as by the responsible professional architect or engineer. The field architect or engineer is responsible to supervise all the relevant activities on the buildings, as well as to invite the authority engineers to record the progress of the erection from time to time in compliance with the building regulations. The authority engineers are designated as building officials according to ACI 318. It's not easy. Getting the building permit is not that easy as I'm talking. First of all, the concerned professional has to ascertain that the plot on which the building is going to be constructed is within the legal limitations. What legal limitations I mean is that it is free from all encumbrances of the government. For example, you have a plot somebody bought in year 2000, and now say it is 2008. On every plot, there is a definition when it is allotted that within so many years it is to be constructed and occupation certificate is to be applied. Now somebody comes to you and he asks in the year 2008, I want my building constructed. What shall you see actually? As an engineer or as an architect, it is our duty to ascertain that whatever documents of allotment the person brings to you, the owner brings to you, should be according to should be complied with the requirement. Now you will say it is not the job of engineer. No, it is not the job of engineer, but it is the basic job. Means you have to check the documents. Before you sign any drawing or architect signs any drawing, he has to make sure that whatever submission he is making is according to legal requirements. First of all, we have to see the transfer letter or allotment letter or whatever letter was given by the government. That should be in line. That should be authenticated. That should be issued with the name of the person who comes to you or any other person whom he represents. After going to that, you have to see that possession is already there, or position of the land is already there. Plot is there, correctly marked, well marked, all the corners are available, everything is okay. That's first principle to see. And you have to see that legally it is free of encumbrances. Means you have to ask for the no due certificate from the department. Now, no due certificate is not that easy. Maybe the person has that. You can see if it is a current certificate, it's okay. If it's an old certificate, the engineer or architect has to request the person, please get me the updated certificate. The owner has to apply for the certificate to the government authority, whoever allotted to him or to the owner the plot, and he has to deposit proposed fee, whatever is applicable on the plot. It could be in lakhs of rupees, sometimes more than many lakhs. After getting that's a long process actually. It's not in half minutes. If you go to Haryana Urban Development Authority, clearly it is written on the notice board that for no due certificate, minimum 18 working days required. It takes sometimes more than 1.5 months because it goes from one desk to more than 10 to desks, and sometimes comes back and then goes and comes back and then goes, and they will tell you deposit this amount, this sum, and you have to get the draft and reapply, deposit the draft, and then it will take a lot of time. Once you get no due certificate, you get this, and there's another problem also sometimes. On both sides of the plot or on three sides of the plot, others have already constructed, might have constructed. Because all these laws are very old. Now it should not apply, but there's a common wall problem. If I have plot on two sides, suppose there are two other owners have constructed their houses, they have constructed the common wall. Common wall means half wall is in my plot and half wall is in the other's plot. This means if the guy has constructed previously, I have to pay him cost of whatever comes in my plot. And that is also defined by the government that you have to pay for the wall per meter so much amount. So you have to see that also. Whether your guy, the other person whose plot is there has been paid or not. These documents, then you have to see what is the intention of the person or the party to construct. What he wants. He wants construction according to defined use. Because you cannot issue a drawing, commercial drawing for a residential building. You cannot issue anything else for, means whatever use is specified or indicated on the allotment, that only can be serviced. And you have to see the zoning. Zoning refers here is, this is a big plot. In the front, how much setback should be there? On the side, how much setback should be there? On the rear, how much setback should be there? It can vary depending upon the size of the plot and depending on the locality of the block or the sector wherever the plot is located. That is very important to see. Yes. You have to see what percentage is permissible by the bylaws or by the regulations. Generally, 60 to 70% is permitted for smaller plots. Suppose there is a plot of 150 square meter or 120 square meter. Sometimes 65 or up to 70% is permitted to cover each on the ground, while for suppose there is a plot of 500 square meter or square yards, they will permit just 55% to 60% coverage on the ground. Similarly, for say 1000 square meter plot or square yards plot, they will permit 33% coverage on the ground. If there is a setback on the sides for the driveway purpose, in the front there could be up to 20 feet complete openage you have to leave. Similarly on the rear. All these factors you have to see and then compile a line work for the owner to see what can be built on that. You have to accommodate all its requirements. Accommodate is a drawing room, staircase, bedrooms, toilets, perimeter toilets, secondary toilet, and so many other rooms. You have to ask for the requirement of basement as well, because when the basement is to be constructed, you have to see many other factors, that basement should be far away, say up to 8 feet or 6 feet or 7 feet from the common wall. Like that, you have to give sufficient margins so that other constructed wall is not subsidized by constructing, or an affidavit is to be filed with the application. These requirements are very important, which needs attention. Well, if you are a regular professional in that area, it may not give you that trouble, but when you are a starter, you have to think all this. You have to consider, you have to read all bylaws or regulations and make yourself clear about what you are doing. It's very important, because up to 1,000 square meter or 500 square meter, even an engineer can plan. There is a provision. He can do structural engineering, he can do architectural engineering. There had been many provisions in the past, and I think now also there could be something. And even if there is no provision, being a structural engineer, everybody has a right to see, everybody has a right to understand and see or scrutinize the drawing of the architects even. So this is very, very essential. And while you are planning any space setting or any building, at the same time you can think of the structure. It's very good. You can say, I can take the best framing here. Accordingly, you have to set the room. And you have to convince the owners that your structure is more important. Your locations of frame is more important. Location of columns is more important than the location of simple walls. Because wall can be relocated without any major problem in future also. But frame cannot be relocated. And we have to convince him that there are so many, you can say, good qualities that can be inculcated into a structure if a good design is made. We have to tell them also that RCC is the best alternative for smaller buildings, because there is a misconception RCC is very expensive. Yes, it is expensive, but on the other hand, brickwork is also very expensive. If you see the foundation, you will see thousands of lakhs of bricks are used in foundations, and that causes the problem sometimes. If you use simple foundations in RCC, it doesn't cause a problem. It's very difficult, I have experienced, to convince the owners, convince the holders, plot holders, and even to convince the architects who are very much professionally qualified, to let them understand about the meaning of RCC. They simply know concrete. Sorry. For them, just inserting small column of 9 inches by 9 inches or 9 inches by 1 foot, they call in their language, because they are going to use steel frame, steel shutters, and those shutters are standard sizes. They don't want to change them. They are going to use brick wall, which is 9 inches thick, and they want the size of the column 9 inches thick. They don't care about the problems in vibration of the concrete. They don't care for the stainless ratio, for the concrete cover, which you have to provide at least 30 mm or 40 mm in a column. If you just take 30 or 40 mm, say 30 this size, 30 that size, 60 mm itself is gone. Then what's the balance in 9 inches? 9 inches is 22 centimeter, 225. Out of 220, if you deduct 60, 160 is balance. In 160, you have to provide ring, you have to provide steel. Then how much space is balanced there inside for the purpose of vibrating? And if you are casting a column of 3 meters or 4 meters, how shall you vibrate? Because more than 2 meters, you cannot allow the drop of the concrete. All these processes, all these methods, all these activities, these guys, professionally qualified architects and these helpless owners, they don't understand. And the masons and carpenters who are involved with the work, they will not bother about that. For them, just doing the job is enough. They don't know what is honeycombing. They don't know what is void. They don't understand what is the meaning of curing. They just do the job and that's it. I have seen so many people, good people, they just do everything to them the column. They will lay out, they will erect the steel, bind it, put some shutters on 4 sides, 4 gullies here, there, and pour the concrete. What is this? They don't even vibrate. Just take a steel rod or some timber piece, long piece, and do like this, tick, 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 and it's done. and sometimes don't even bother about the complete cover. I have seen many structures members where you see the steel visible after the complete shutters are removed. What they do? They make a cement mix, or cement mortar, and just plaster like that, and apply some Hessian bag on that, roughen it, and that's it. This is what is happening. Our poor owners, poor in the sense of knowledge, our owners, our client, he doesn't know all this. What is sees others are doing on their buildings, that is what engineering is all about. They just go to see other buildings. I have seen, I am upset with this, even for my own buildings. I have seen my sisters say, my people say, come and see that building. They go and see, oh, he has done this, so I have to do this. They don't understand, those guys are not utilizing structural framing. They are just doing structural brick walls. And I am not able to speak brick very good because I used to do block works in Gulf. So bricks are very good for them. What they do the bricks. Brick walls first, they leave the steel of columns in between. After brick wall is done, they put shutters on two sides, pour the concrete in the column. This is what they do. And then after raising the bridge wall, this substandard columns, they put the shuttering for the slab and do work on that. That is what they call framing. This is happening on 90% of the private houses I have seen. I have not seen a single house here except built by certain professional companies which are doing framing first and walls are followed up later except with the accessory walls. All are doing this. They don't understand. They don't understand at all. Even in my case, in 2000, I sent certain details to one of my friend architects who was given the responsibility of constructing my small house here in Faridabad. What he did not follow my trends. He did his way and spoiled my building. He did his shutters according to his steel form requirement, 9 inches and 13 inches or something like that. He did not follow my beam design in the foundations. I gave him a beam design, completely beam frame design in the foundations. He did not follow that. He just put his isolated footings and on the plate level put a beam. What is the thing? Just provide a beam on the plate level that will serve for the purpose of resisting the earthquake. That's what he did. He did all footings and then he put below the beams 4 feet, 5 feet depth of bricks. I asked him for what? He did not reply. That's what they do. It's complete waste. They don't understand. That's why I'm telling you it's very important for the owner to know what you are going to do. They think concrete is very expensive, but they never analyze. You have to analyze yourself. I think being a structural engineer, you may not do that because you think it's not your job, but it is your job. I promise you it is your job. You must know the rates of the market, what the cost of steel is, what the cost of aggregate is, what the cost of cement is. Maybe cement cost you know. What the cost of timber is, and the cost of various materials is very important to be known to an engineer. He may be any category engineer, site engineer, or a tender engineer, or a field engineer, or he may be a structural engineer. It's good to know means. Why to avoid? We should at least know the cost of per cubic meter of concrete and average cost of reinforcement. We generally use up to 120 kilogram per cubic meter in ordinary structures, and in industrial structures it can be up to, you can say, 160 kilograms. Sometimes I have seen even in Gulf up to 250 kilogram. In some blast resistance I have seen up to 600, 700. In rare cases 900. So it's not a very big exercise. If I am constructing a house, a small house, it will not cost more than 120. I'm telling 120 kilogram per cubic meter is reasonable. Even it can be 100, because as an engineer you will not use 25 diameter everywhere, 25 mm diameter. These people use 12 mm, 16 mm in ordinary slabs, where 8 or 10 mm would suffice. It's really waste of material, and it is the job of an engineer. It is the job of a appointed engineer to help his client have a building with economical cost, with the best stress resistance qualities. That is what the client is looking for. Engineering is not simply designing alone. Engineering is to be understood in entirety. Engineering means engineer. We have to engineer something from imagination. We have to engineer something from the materials available. Materials which are just like sand, aggregate. These have no value until these are utilized as concrete. We have to do a lot. Of course, we should prepare a lot. That's not happening, but we cannot do anything for that, and that is very important. Building design is actually partly structural engineering and partly art. It's architecture. Yes, one thing I missed in this chapter, and that is about Vastu. Nowadays, it's customary now, no more fashion, that in our country, 90% of people talk of Vastu for incorporation into building design. Yes, I agree with this. Not as a religious person, as a scientist. As a scientist, scientific-based thinker. Vastu, we say it's only Hinduism or Vedism. No. Vastu is oriented on north, south, east, west, on directions. If you take a magnetic needle, it is north and south, and north and south tells you about the magnetic direction. And our body is built up of blood and water, particularly water is there, iron is there, and our body is attracted or repelled by the effect of iron, by the magnetic action. So it's just like if you sleep, keeping your head in north, you will dream adverse scenes. On the other hand, if your head remains in south-oriented head while sleeping, you may have very nice sleep, very sound sleep. Otherwise, on the east and west direction, you can also sleep, but better if you orient yourself in the south. South is sleeping direction, and according to Vastu, if your bedroom is pointed or located towards south, it is considered good. It is also considered good if it is located toward west, because west is also a point where sun sets out to, and that also indicates that that is living direction. Similarly, south is also considered a heated up of fire location according to Vedas, and that is the reason the kitchen fire is expected to be located at south. East and west are the directions of the sun movement. Sun sets in east and sun rises in east and sets in west. To comply with that requirement, because movement of sun indicates the day work and rise in life. So if your entry